Sure. Look, I talked to President Brown, talked to Amanda, talked to Lucas, talked to Will. We're going to defer this thing for a week to get
Okay.
better answers.
Commissioner O'Donnell, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're waiting on Vice President Fielder at this point.
All right. Thank you.
Vice President Fielder, can you hear me?
I can, and I'm sorry for the delay. I just received the link. I think it had something to do with resetting my password, so it wasn't showing up in my box. I apologize.
No, no worries. All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Time is now 9:37 a.m. Today's date is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. This is the time and place for our regularly scheduled business meeting. We are in the Bollinger Conference Room here at the offices of the Montana Public Service Commission. I will call this meeting to order. Would my colleagues join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? All right. Thank you, colleagues. All right. I'd note for the record that Commissioner Pinocci, myself, and Commissioner Bukacek are present in the Bollinger Room. Vice President Fielder and Commissioner O'Donnell are participating online. Therefore, we have quorum. All right. We do have one change to the agenda this morning. We are going to defer work session item number 1, which is docket 2023.07.068. This is the Northwestern and annual natural gas supply tracking adjustment. We will take that up at our next business meeting of June 25th. That matter is being deferred. All right. Montana Public Service Commission welcomes public comment on any matter that is on today's agenda or on any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission. Are there any public commenters in the room? Any public commenters in the room? Seeing none. Are there any public commenters online? I'm being informed there are not. So no public comment this morning. Action items. Number 1, approval of the commission minutes for the week of June 10th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I'll move adoption of the minutes.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Commissioner Bukacek has seconded. We have motion and second. All right. Discussion on the commission minutes. Any changes, revisions, edits? Seeing none, all those in favor of Vice President Fielder's motion to adopt the commission minutes for the week of June 10th, 2024, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying nope. No opposition. Minutes are adopted as drafted. All right, as just announced, we are deferring work session item number 1, which is docket 2023.07.068. So we will move to work session item number 2. This is a commission-initiated matter. This is the post-travel accountability report to have commissioners report on travel where the costs of the trip exceed $500. Morning, Mr. Poco. Are you reporting? All right, we'll start with staff. Mr. Poco.
President Brown, commissioners, this is the post-travel accountability report by commission staff pursuant to travel policy 2.11.2 in the Blue Book. Any trip over $500 must be reported. First, I wanted to take an opportunity to thank you for sending myself and Katie Sheard on the travel that we went on. The reason for the trip was a mandatory work trip to hold a hearing in docket 2024.02.027 regarding Southeast Garbage LLC to hold a hearing out in Baker. I also wanted to say that it was really helpful to have Katie Sheard as a regulatory compliance there. It made everything work really well. And I think the hearing went very well out in Baker. Essentially, that is it. That is the accountability report that I have for you. It was a mandatory hearing that cost over $500 between the hotels and food. I'm open for any questions.
Commissioner Bukacek.
No questions. I just wanted to agree. It was very well done. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Vice President Fielder.
So, what was envisioned with these, and I know we're still getting used to the new reporting structure here, but what was envisioned with this was that post accountability travel report is a form, and it has some key information on there. The dates of the travel and the expense of the travel are the primary accountability factors that we're looking for. If those are available, that would be great to hear.
Yeah, the answers to those, Mr. Poco?
President Brown, Vice President Fielder, the dates of the travel, I don't recall off the top of my head. I do have the report in front of me now. The dates of the travel was May 19th, 2024 through May 23rd, 2024, out from Helena to Baker and back to Helena. The cost of my travel at the very least was $985.45. I have submitted, both Kitty shared and I have submitted the detailed forms to our accounting staff to break down those costs. But mine was $985.45, and Kitty Sheard's looks like it was $998.37.
All right. Katie, anything to offer? Had you been?
Not have anything further to offer.
All right. Any further questions? I would just note that got to drive a significant way and see a lot of Montana if you're going to Baker, Montana from Helena, Montana. Commissioner Pinocci knows about wind chill time, that's for sure. All right. Well, thank you for the report. Any other staff reports? All right. Commissioner reports. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, Mr. President. I don't have the exact dates right now. I haven't been reminded by Commissioner Fielder about the dates, but recently Commissioner Brown and I attended the Western Conference of Public Service Commissioners held in Colorado.
May 19th, 22nd.
Moved. Oh, thank you. So the location changes year by year. Different state in the West will host it. Montana had our opportunity about 3 years ago, but were harpooned by the travel restrictions of other commissions post-COVID. And Montana had released all of its restrictions on that, but other states had not. So unfortunately, we weren't able to host it in Whitefish, which really upset me. So this time it was interesting. There were several different sessions on there. There were 2 or 3 that really impressed upon me their significance to Montana. One of them, the president of MISO, Mid-Continent Independent Service Organizations, which controls right to the east of us the energy distribution in 17 different states and 1 Canadian province. Claire Moeller is his name. He's long been in the utility business, the provision business. Very wise fellow with a tremendous amount of experience, and very frank with his assessments of things. As he pointed out to NERC, North American Electric Reliability Corporation, fairly recently, that the reason that NERC has been pointing out that we have such an alarming circumstance of resource adequacy, not having enough electricity to meet our needs, was the premature closing of baseload power plants. That I appreciated his frankness on that. He pointed now that with all of the proliferation of renewables on the system, it is becoming very, very difficult right now. And with the increasing loads having to do with like data centers and data mining, things that require an unprecedented amount of power for one particular location. I said it's really complicating things very much. it says it was difficult in the past for 10-year projections. Now they're just projecting 2 years out because things are moving so much. It says, and one bit of wisdom that stuck with me that he pointed out is that don't confuse the interests of the public with the public interest. And I'm often glad that he pointed that out, and that information from people testifying at our hearings is very interesting, very informative, but nevertheless it should be regarded as special interests and not the public interest. They shouldn't be confused on that, and I really appreciated that. Also, one of the main thrusts of the conference was having to do with wildfire risk. There was a panel on that I believe Commissioner Brown attended on that. One thing that I've been involved with somewhat, as well as Commissioner Brown, is what's called the Western Resource Adequacy Program, or WRAP program. And what it's meant to do is to, through a cooperative arrangement with neighboring utilities and ultimately in the whole West, to be able to send power to where it is needed. It was important, very significant that the CEO of that program indicated that they had a deadline of going active this summer, and they postponed that until summer of 26 because of lack of enough sufficient participation by utilities. And that is that WRAP program will have significant benefits to resource adequacy in Montana, but that has been delayed. On the wildfire thing, this is where there was an announcement by our national association, NARIC, National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, a Regulators Roundtable series, Wildfires and Affordability, Financial, Regulatory, and Policy Issues for Regulators. This is a 4-segment discussion on this. The first one is on June 24th. The first 3 sessions of this are virtual. And then in November, at the NARIC meeting, the winter meeting in Anaheim, there will be an in-person thing on this. But this is to underscore the really existential, and I'm very careful to use that word. It gets overused a lot, but it is existential threat to utilities and their provision of adequate provision of electricity to the public from wildfires. That they can not only destroy all of the infrastructure that's needed, but the proactive cutting of power to deactivate lines that have been responsible for forest fires and high wind, for instance. There's several different ways that wildfires can affect the ability of the utility to send the electricity directly to consumers. This is of major importance. There was discussion of what utilities could do on this regard. I had a particular discussion with a vendor, the name of Pano, P-A-N-O, and they have a system of cameras in forested areas that are very, very accurate, and they can determine by triangulation exactly where smoke is coming from in real time. They monitor these things all the time. They can tell the difference between smoke and, say, dust caused by an off-road vehicle or something of that nature. This would allow, of course, fires to be addressed immediately rather than through what's happened a lot is somebody seeing a fire happening and racing down the road to find a telephone or cell phone service and reporting it, and all the delays involved in that. So that was very, very interesting. One of the sessions that I went to that really resulted in no answers at all was what utility regulators can do to affect the commodity price of natural gas. The answer by the three experts on there is absolutely nothing. The professor from the university in Texas even went to say it's a rigged game. The suppliers control all the prices as well as the supply and demand on the whole thing. So there's basically nothing we can do. But the high point of this was discussion of the recently announced rule from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission called Order 1920. And the implications of this to the state's authority to have a definitive say-so in where transmission lines are built and who pays for them. This resulted in, the FERC Commissioner Christie was very prominent on this. He sought out Commissioner Brown and myself that it would be particularly affecting the rights of Montana in terms of this. And we had long discussions with him that resulted in bringing this information back to the commission, which resulted in the motion that we passed unanimously last week on this issue. So those were the highlights of the event. This is beneficial to commissioners to attend, not necessarily for individual content, but for the networking involved in this. And in terms of the networking, I would say that attending the NARIC functions and the Western Conference functions, FERC commissioners are there in attendance a lot. Over my 7.5 years of being on this commission, I have interacted directly and collegially friendly with probably 9 different commissioners, FERC commissioners, former or current commissioners, at one time resulting in a suggestion that I made to 3 current commissioners that resulted in a very significant change to FERC policy having to do with what they call PURPA and how we set rates on that. So it's these meetings are very informative, very effective, and they give a lot of information that is pertinent to individual commissions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. Commissioner Pinochi?
Thank you, Mr. President. Went to Baker, Montana for the May 19th hearing, which was mandatory. Mileage was covered, meals. Drove there, which is right to the North Dakota border and back. I do not have a complete finance report on that. Should be available next week. Oh, here it is. Looks like our cost was $1,007.76 mileage and meals. Yeah. Again, it was a mandatory meeting, and there's no point flying to Baker because drive time is probably cheaper than the plane tickets. And you'd have to drive anyway, part of the way. All right. So that's it.
Excellent report. Vice President Fielder?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any publicly funded travel that would meet the reporting threshold for this period, so nothing to report.
All right, Commissioner Bukacek?
Nothing new to report.
All right. I do have travel reports. So as Commissioner O'Donnell covered, we jointly attended the 2024 Western Conference of Public Service Commissioners Annual Education Conference. That was held in Vail. The conference was held May 19th through 22nd. Overall, I came away from the conference with the impression that the Western Conference is one of the more informative and weighty conferences that we attend as PSC commissioners. Conference provided a wide range of informational seminars to choose from. Topics range from Western grid integration to the role of nuclear power in meeting national carbon goals to small water utility regulation. Touch on 3 seminars that I thought were of particular interest. The first was a panel on natural gas commodity markets, what was driving prices, and how can regulators protect customers. Focus of the panel was related to Winter Storm Uri and the price spikes of winter 2022 and 2023. Those events caused considerable costs for consumers, including here in Montana, as the cost of natural gas commodities soared. While we know, colleagues, that commodity costs tend to be pass-through expenses to Montana regulated utility customers, does not mean we as regulators don't consider how to protect consumers, even in situations where utilities are entitled to pass the cost on directly to the consumer. There was much discussion about how to do that as that part of that panel. The panel explored how utility commodity purchasing works presently. Commissioner O'Donnell touched a bit on this. What tools are available to mitigate cost risk, and if there are bigger changes that could be considered to protect captive customers in what Commissioner O'Donnell correctly stated is an unregulated market. Specific takeaways from that panel included information that forecasters predict that the demand for gas service will rise roughly 11.8% through the next sort of 10-year planning period. In addition, we heard that the Northwest Gas Association's 2024 Pacific Northwest gas market is projecting natural gas demand throughout the Northwest will increase about 11.8% over the same horizon. Significant portion of that demand stems from the industrial sector. So with the regional system already pressed for capacity, we heard that additional pipeline expansions will be needed in the coming years. And this is pretty remarkable. Industrial demand is projected to rise 32.5% over the next 10-year planning horizon for natural gas. So too here in Montana, as we know, demand for gas will likely increase as Montana's population continues to grow, particularly in the Bozeman-Gallatin County area. Second panel of note was related to maintaining resource adequacy and building new transmission in the West. Commissioner O'Donnell also talked a little bit about this. Clearly, this is a topic to those of us presently serving on the PSC and those commissioners that will be coming on board in January that will be of particular interest over the next 10-year planning horizon. As we know, several independent studies show that thermal generation in the West is being retired at a rate faster than replacement power can be built. This, combined with the explosive growth in population in the western half of the United States, is raising real concern about electric reliability and resource adequacy over the next 10-year planning horizon. The situation, when combined with questions related to the sufficiency of transmission capabilities in the northern grid, formed the discourse of this particular panel that I attended. The discussion of the panel focused on whether there should be a single entity that has a comprehensive regulatory authority over resource adequacy and transmission expansion in the West. The discussion also touched on various federal and voluntary regional efforts that have arisen in the last couple of years. The panel provided brief updates on several efforts, including recently issued FERC transmission rules, the Department of Energy's NIETC proposals, the RAP program, and several cooperative efforts to accelerate new transmission development. Moderator of the panel was Chairman Eric Blank of the Colorado Public Utility Commission. Speakers included Richard Glick, Sarah Edmonds, and Robert Kennedy with Xcel Energy. As Commissioner O'Donnell noted, the majority of this panel time spent, the discussion was spent on the recently issued FERC order number 1920. As those who watched our proceedings last week know that order was passed by a 2-to-1 vote on May 13th, 2024, and purports to emphasize longer-term and more regional transmission planning and investment, which if you read the order, the two majority commissioners argue is critical critical to address challenges such as rising demand in the West of shifting generation mix and more frequent extreme weather. During the session, FERC Commissioner Christie spoke from the audience. He was the commissioner who was the no vote. Commissioner Christie detailed multiple legal problems with the FERC Order 1920 from his perspective. And many of these concerns mirrored the legal deficiencies identified by this body last week in its reconsideration request to FERC. My colleagues know, this body has asserted that FERC allocation criteria improperly override state jurisdiction. And like Commissioner Christie, we have asserted that implementation of Order 1920 will result in cost allocation that fails to reflect the role of state policy in causing costs and will shift the financial burden away from cost-causing states that imposed particularly green policies. What is more, as Commissioner Christie discussed, final order, as we see it, reduces states' roles to being merely stakeholders in this process and fails to connect specific state cost allocation to policy decision. As Commissioner O'Donnell noted, this action by the PSC last week in and of itself shows how my travel and Commissioner O'Donnell's travel benefited the agency per the Blue Book requirement. And the final closing session of the conference consisted of a panel of state commission chairs. Again, the moderator was Chair Eric Blank of the Colorado Commission. Participants in this panel included myself, plus Chair Danner of Washington, Chair Jim O'Connor of Arizona, Chair Asuncion of the Hawaii Commission, Chair Megan Decker of Oregon, and Chair Mary Throne of Wyoming. The general line of questions from both the moderator and the attendees was related to the biggest opportunities and challenges facing the West, including questions posed to me about challenges in Montana. I identified several things. One is, of course, the challenge that we are facing here in Montana, particularly our regulated entities, in dealing with the growing population in Montana and the growing demand for services. We're certainly seeing that in both the Kalispell area and in the Bozeman area. And then, of course, talked about the fact that mirroring what third-party experts are saying is that we are facing a resource adequacy challenge in the West, including here in Montana, due to the retirement of thermal generation. In keeping with the Blue Book travel, and this is true for Commissioner O'Donnell because I approved his final travel expense yesterday, our total travel cost was around $2,800. Of this, $694 was for the lodging, which was pretty remarkable cost for a beautiful facility we stayed in, frankly. $1,000 for the airline ticket and $725 for the registration. All right, that concludes the travel report. All right, let's move to work session item number 3. This is a commission-initiated matter. This is a litigation status update where you will hear, as a commission, an update on currently pending litigation and discuss litigation strategy. This next section will be closed to the public. I will note for the record that the presiding officer of any meeting may close the meeting during the time discussion relates to a matter of litigation and/or litigation strategy, and the presiding officer, which is me today, determines the need to protect agency litigation decision-making and discussion that will exceed the merits of public disclosure. The coming closed session will involve discussions and decision-making related to ongoing litigation in which the agency is involved as a party. Accordingly, as the presiding officer of this meeting, I am closing the remainder of this meeting to the public. But before I do that, I would just note for the record that the PSC will be before our Appropriations Interim Subcommittee this coming Thursday, the 20th at 4 p.m., State Capitol Building, Room 152. We will have the regularly scheduled business meeting next Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. At 9:30 a.m. And then we will adjourn today's business meeting upon the conclusion of our closed session. So, seeing no further business to come before us, commissioners, why don't we give ourselves about 8 minutes and meet in the commission conference room at 10:15 a.m. And with that, we'll move into closed session. Thank you for coming today.